legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle, the ASU strike.
You have done your work and put us to the wall. We are not your slaves.
I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report.
I have not seen the report.
It's a great Monday, Easter Monday. That's what makes it very spectacular, not just for us, but across the world. It all started since last week, the highlights being the Good Friday. Of course, there had been Ash Wednesday before that. Of course, Easter Sunday, which was yesterday across the globe. Today, Easter Monday, is a public holiday for most parts of the world, including back at home in Nigeria. But you know how we do. We don't observe most of those days, not because we actually against the observance of it, because duty calls every time we have this sort of commemoration. And just to also mention that Salah is around the corner, so that again is a big conversation in itself. In the meantime, the fasting continues for our Muslim brothers, and we just want to say a big thank you to everyone who joins us here on Global Television every other morning. Weekdays, my name is Uyag Mofwegbe. I'll be joined in the middle of it by my colleague, Queen Agaba. I'm sure you made the most of your weekend and you've been enjoying these holidays, whether you're like us, working in the middle of it, or you're taking time off, maybe with family, with friends, loved ones, and so on and so forth. But Nigeria as an entity continues to evolve on all fronts. Just last week, several stories came through, most of them big stories, really. One of them being the story around the Labour Party and the internal crisis is now dealing with. The Labour Party in itself, it's, I wouldn't want to call it a hard nut to crack in a sense, but then it is a phenomenon in itself, particularly in our political landscape. Again, if you take your mind back to 2022, around the middle of it, in particular, you realize that the obedient movement had formed more like an army, all right? And that built up into the election itself in 2023, whether it was a presidential, legislative, or what have you, all around the general election cycle in 2023. So the obedient movement was forced to look out for, even though some people, for reasons best known to them, wouldn't reckon with that group. But Peter Obi, former governor of Anambra State himself, was pivotal in this movement. Many people we spoke to between then and now, I mean, the last 2 or so years, would say, look, we rallied around the obedience movement. We threw our weight behind it because of Peter Obi, not necessarily because of the party itself. Of course, they're not saying by any means there's anything wrong with the party. They're saying there was a reason they made the move. They put in that level of commitment. And Peter Gregory Obi, they say, is that force. But then Peter Obi, as a force, as I'd like to call him on the show this morning, had shaped the Labour Party on the one hand and then the Labour movement on the other. But not so much of movement has been seen with that movement recently, particularly following the conclusion of the general election. The party itself has seen more than a fair share of internal crisis, even though we know virtually all the political parties, particularly the major ones in this country, are dealing with one form of internal tussle or another. It has always been, for more than a year, the Abure faction and the Lamidi Apapa faction of the party. And all of a sudden, people are wondering, where is the Lamidi Apapa faction coming from? We've had several people who have come to speak on behalf of that faction, all right, including the National Publicity Secretary, Dr. Arambabi himself, who has said, look, there is a problem within the ranks of the party, particularly at the leadership level, and they have said that Mr. Obi isn't doing enough to resolve the issue. Some have even accused Peter Obi of taking sides with Julius Abure, the de facto chairman, national chairman of the party. But then Abure himself, for some people, has become more of a baggage, than an asset for the party. And they say their reason is simple, that Abure has overstayed his welcome as the national chairman of the party. In recent weeks, we are seeing even the National Labour Congress, the Nigeria Labour Congress, that is the NLC, coming to say, look, the Labour Party belongs to us. We own the party. So we wouldn't have some politicians, some self-serving individuals come to hijack this party from us. Now, fast forward to just a few days ago, Abure has gone on with the convention, national convention of the party, and we understand that he has, that's a convention, even though already not one endorsed by the Independent National Electoral Commission, has now made Abure the de facto leader again of the party. What sense can we make of that with regards to our conversation on the program this morning? The chairman of the Labour Party in Edo State will join us live from the state's capital, Benin City, this morning via Zoom to help us find context and insights into the development within the Labour Party. Also, we take out time to talk about the place, the state of the economy. How has the economy fared under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the last 10 months already? Time flies, they say. All right, is it too early to draw conclusions? Is it too early to do an assessment of some of the pivotal critical policies of this government under the leadership of President Tinubu? Or is it a way of saying, look, let's just see this as a basis to continue to believe in the renewed hope agenda of this administration? We're going to throw more light on that right after this break. To stay with us.
Welcome to another episode on Test and Texture. I'm Fatimi Abba Umar. Today I'll be taking you on how to make the banga soup. Nigeria banga soup of Ofeako is a native to the Niger Delta and southern eastern parts of Nigeria. In the Niger areas, banga soup is commonly eaten with various fufu recipes: starch, pounded yam, semolina, gari, and cassava fufu. In the southern eastern parts of Nigeria, banga soup is referred to as Ofeako, where Ofe means soup, stew, and Aku means palm fruit, and is used mainly as stew for boiled white rice. The palm fruit oil extract used in making banga soup stew is quite different from the red palm oil used in cooking Nigerian food recipes. Palm oil is pure oil extract from the palm fruit pulp at high temperatures, while the palm fruit oil extract used for banga soup is extracted at very low temperature and is a mixture of oil and water. Palm fruit oil extract for banga soup contains less saturated fat than palm oils. Ingredients for banga soup: 1 kg palm fruit or 800 gram tinned palm fruit concentrate, beef, dry fish, vegetables, sand leaves for Ofeako or dried and crushed bitter leaves for Delta style banga soup, 2 medium onions, 2 teaspoons of ground crayfish, salt and chili pepper to taste, ogiri okpe, iru, 1-2 big star cubes. Before you cook Nigeria banga soup, extract the palm fruit concentrate from the palm fruit. If using the tinned palm fruit concentrate, open the tin and set aside. Cook the beef and the dry fish with 1 bulb diced onions and stock cubes till done. Wash and cut scent leaves into tiny pieces. The scent leaves give the banga soup Ofeako its unique aroma and taste. If you're outside Nigeria, this may be difficult for you to find. You can use pumpkin leaves or any other vegetable in place of scent leaves. If cooking Delta style banga soup for starch, you should either cook this stew without vegetables or use dry crushed bitter leaves. Cook the remaining bulb onion, pound the crayfish, ogiri, okpe, and pepper in a mortar and set aside. You can also grind them with a dry mill. Cooking instructions: set the pot of palm fruit extract on the stove and start cooking at high heat. Leave to boil till you notice red oil at the surface of the banga stew. If you think that the banga soup is watery, cook till the soup has thickened to its consistency you like your stew. Now add the beef, dry fish and stock, onions, crayfish, pepper, and leave to boil very well. Add the scent leaves or other vegetables and salt to taste. Leave to simmer for about 2 minutes. The banga soup is done. Serve with white rice or use Delta style banga soup to eat starch, gari, semolina, amala, or pounded yam. Cooking instructions: for those using tinned palm fruit concentrate. When the beef and fish are well done, add the palm fruit concentrate and add water to get the consistency you like for your stews. Leave to boil very well. Add the onions, crayfish, pepper, ogiri, blend and let it boil very well. Add the scent leaves and other vegetables and salt to taste. Leave to simmer for about 2 minutes. The banga soup is done. If you use bitter leaves to prepare it, serve with Nigerian fufu meals, especially starch. If you use scent leaves to prepare it, serve with boiled white rice. That's all for now. See you same time next time for another interesting episode on Taste and Texture. I remain your host, Fatimi Abu Omar. Bye.
Thank you, Fatima Umar, for that brilliant piece put together. That was quite inviting, wasn't it? But for me, it feels too heavy, maybe a little heavy for breakfast, but it makes a lot of dinner idea. Okay, so let's talk about where we are as an economy right now. First of all, we're understanding that in a matter of days, at least $1.5 billion had come into this country by way of foreign direct investments. Recall that even in the build-up to the general election, President Bola Tinubu, then the candidates of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, had made a very strong point with how that, upon assumption of office, if elected to be the president of Nigeria, he would drive foreign direct investments as a matter of urgency and priority number one. So hopefully that is exactly what is playing out right now. But the question is, much as we understand that foreign direct investments just doesn't happen miraculously, we put in place the necessary framework, the environment. We have that environment that encourages or engenders foreign direct investments. Are we better positioned today than we were a year, 2 or 3 ago to attract foreign investors into our country? A bit of an irony is that we have a couple of companies, that have folded up in the last few years, not because they are out of business, but because they left Nigeria. So if that's the case, if we couldn't keep those we already had, if we couldn't retain those entities, large entities, corporate entities that were already established here, how then are we optimistic or hopeful that we're able to attract newcomers, so to speak, into the space? Is a question that we need to answer. We understand that the foreign exchange segment of the economy is looking better. Things are looking up in that regard. We are made to believe that the Naira is firming up against the dollar by the day. Just last week, the CBN had announced that it was making $10 each available to verified, accredited, regulated BDCs, that's Bureau de Change operators in this country. And the Apex Bank was very clear as to what the guidelines are, amongst which it stated very clearly that first, we're selling to you at 1,251 Naira to the dollar, which means you're buying a dollar for 1,251 Naira, but then you can't sell for more than 1.5% profits, all right, margin, which means that you can't sell for anything higher than 1,259 Naira, which is to say, for every $1, the BDC operators are not expected to profits above 8 Naira. That's the point, all right? But again, we wait to see how the regulatory guidelines around that will work, because again, we have been told both by the CBN and the EFCC that, look, even banks, commercial banks in this case in particular, are also complicit in what we now know as forex racketeering, round tripping, speculation, and so on and so forth. Because if people do not speculate and create all of the anxieties unnecessarily so within the FX segment of the economy, we will have this pressure, all right, on dollar, the demand on the dollar, which ultimately weakens the Naira. But people are saying, yes, much as the Naira has seen some consistent strengthening against the US dollar, it hasn't rubbed off on the prices of essentials. Commodities in the market? At what point are we going to be seeing that happen? Because until the everyday Nigerian, the regular person, all right, begins to see a marked, palpable, positive change in the quality of life, standard of life that they live, they are likely not going to believe in the numbers. Okay, while all of that is happening, we understand that some 13 new governors, now operative term, new governors, all right, not governors who had been there until May 29, 2023, 13 of them, new governors they are called, have borrowed upwards of 260 billion naira. I mean, we're talking about loans cumulatively now, all right? So again, that's borrowing by states. 13 new governors were told have borrowed well over 200 billion in the last 6 months, all right? This is a country where we're told that even the federal government, just like many of these states, have had to borrow from, time and again to be able to pay salaries, even under the leadership of former President Muhammadu Buhari. The federal government had to borrow, not once, not twice, just to be able to meet up the demand of paying the salaries of workers. Now we hear that state governors have also done that in the last, couple of years at least, and it is still the practice in certain states. And speaking of states, we understand the Kaduna State's governor, Uba Sani, is now blaming his predecessor and political benefactor, Nasir El-Rufai, the immediate past governor of that state, for the failure of Kaduna State's government to be able to pay salaries, all right? And then you're wondering, hold on a second, this man has been there for what, 10 months? At what point did he realize that it is the fault of former governor El-Rufai to not have been able to pay salaries of workers? Did he not know that before he got into office? Did he not know that within the first 3 months, the first 6 months? Did he just realize? Or is it some sort of politics? Because recall that there are now insinuations that the former governor, El-Rufai, is likely going to leave the APC, as politicians will say, dump the APC, all right, and head to a different party. Some say, well, all indicators are pointing towards the SDP. He has had at least 2 meetings with them, the ones that we know of in recent times. Could that be indicative enough of the possibility of the accidental civil servant, as he named one of his books, wants to make? All right, but then we just keep our fingers crossed to see what happens. But the focus of the conversation is, do politicians, whether they're governors or presidents or even ministers, realize the amount of work in front of them? Do they even have the slightest idea before they actually get into office, or are they just overwhelmed by the glitz and glamour, all right, the attention, the resources, the perks of office, that they forget that they're there to work in the first instance? And then it takes them this long to realize some basics. What had been the trajectory of salary payments in Kaduna State in the last 3 to 4 years before Governor Sani came into office? So did he just realize? He was a senator. He has always been a member of the APC. Has he not followed trajectory in that state? The average Kaduna resident, the average Kaduna worker, the average Kaduna politician knows what the trajectory had been. So at what point did he suddenly have an epiphany upon which he realized that, hold on a second, we would have been able to pay salaries as and when due, but then my predecessor, former governor, Nasir El-Rufai, just hadn't done the right thing. All right, now that we're talking business and economy, let's join Kikelema Okeri as we bring you a summary of business in the week that was.
Hello and welcome to Business Reports on Global Morning. In order to strengthen the financial system in Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria has unveiled new minimum capital requirements for banks, pegging the minimum capital base for commercial banks with international authorization at 500 billion naira. Confirming this in Abuja, the Acting Director, Corporate Communication Department, Hakama Sidi Ali, says the new minimum capital base for commercial banks and national authorization is now 200 billion naira, while the requirement for those with regional authorization is 50 billion naira. Citi also disclosed that the new minimum capital for Merchant Bank will be 50 billion naira, while the new requirement for non-interest bank with national and regional authorization are 20 billion naira and 10 billion naira respectively. A circular signed by the Director of Financial Policy and Regulation Department, Aruna Mustafa, to all commercial merchants and non-interest bank and promoters of proposed banks emphasized that all banks are required to meet the minimum capital requirement within 24 months, commencing from April 1st, 2024 and terminating on March 31st, 2026. According to the circular, the move initially disclosed by CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso in his address to annual bankers' dinner in November 2023 was to enhance banks' resilience, solvency, and capacity to continue supporting the growth of the Nigerian economy. To enable them to meet the minimum capital requirement, the CBN urged banks to consider inject fresh equity capital through private placement, rights issues, or offer for subscription, merger and acquisition, or upgrade or downgrade of license authorization. Furthermore, the circular disclosed that the minimum capital shall comprise paid-up capital and share premium only. It stressed that the new capital requirement shall not be based on shareholders' funds. Additionally, Tier 1 capital shall not be eligible for meeting the new requirement. Notwithstanding the capital increase, banks are to ensure strict compliance with the minimum capital adequacy ratio requirements applicable to their license authorization. In line with the extant regulation, banks that breach the CAR requirement shall be required to inject fresh capital to regularize their position. The CBN circular says the minimum capital requirements for proposed banks shall be paid up capital, adding that the minimum capital requirements shall apply to all new applications for banking licenses submitted after April 1st, 2024. It's noted that the CBN will continue to process all pending applications for banking licenses for which a capital deposit had been made and approval in principle had been granted. However, it said the promoters of such proposed bank will make up the difference between the capital deposit with the CBN and the new capital requirement no later than 31st of March 2026. Meanwhile, the CBN says all banks are required to submit an implementation plan, clearly indicating the chosen options for meeting the new capital requirement and various activities involved with a timeline no later than April 30th, 2024. The CBN also disclosed that it will monitor and ensure compliance with the new requirements within the specified timeline. The African Development Bank has recorded a $75 million loan agreement with Idroma Element Fertilizer and Chemical Limited, making a significant investment to amplify Nigerian fertilizer production capacity and boost its export potential. According to a statement from the AFDB, the strategic deployment of funds is earmarked for the expansion of Indroma fertilizer production through the addition of a third urea production line, as well as the development of a new port terminal at its Port Harcourt complex. This expansion is not just a nod to increasing the domestic supply, but is designed to position Nigeria as a formidable player in the international fertilizer market. The envisaged production line boasts an annual capacity target of 1.4 million metric tons of urea, furthermore cementing urea status as a cornerstone fertilizer in global agriculture. While the proposed expansion, the company is not only anticipated to bolster food production domestically, but also enhance food security across regional and international markets. The NGX All Share Index enjoyed a slight boost, climbing by 278.42 points to reach 104,562.06 points, marking a growth of 0.27% from its previous close at 104,283 0.64 points. This increase is indicative of the strengthening investors' confidence as seen in the 157.43 billion naira jump in the market capitalization to a new total of 59.12 trillion naira, up from 58.96 trillion naira. The overall market mood was buoyant, with Morrison leading the charge among 232 among 329 advancing stock, with a notable 10% rise in its share price. Conversely, the FTN Cocoa saw its stock price fall by 9.60%, positioning it as one of the day's most significantly decliners among 16 stocks. Focusing on trading volume, Zenith Bank emerged as the standout, while GT Company gathered attention for the monetary value of its traded share. Moreover, the market dynamic was evident, with a marginal increase in the number of transactions of 10,257, slightly up from the 10,260 trades recorded in previous session. Kike Lomo Okere, Global Television News.
Thank you, Kikalomo Okere, for that updates on business and economy. We're taking a quick break now for the AMUs. When we return, we'll put all of our conversations on the road for you. Do stay with us. This is Global Morning.
Hello and welcome to our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television. We are live in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Anthony Momodu. The Kogi State government has debunked an allegation by the Social Democratic Party that it masterminded attacks on witnesses at the ongoing governorship election petition tribunal, saying the allegation was baseless. The Commissioner for Information and Communications in the state, Kingsley Fanwo, said it was, however, important to enlighten the SDP that the case at the tribunal was between parties at the state government. Fanwo, who spoke at the press conference in Lokoja, noted that if any attack did happen, as claimed by the SDP, it must have been stage-managed by the SDP to justify their failure to produce the number of witnesses they claim to have. About 30,000 households across Sokoto State have benefited from Senator Aminu Tambuwal's Ramadan package. In his remarks at the flag-off of the distribution of bags of rice to PDP faithful across all the wards in the state, Senator Tambuwal said that the distribution was to thank God for giving him the wealth and opportunity to assist the lower class. Speaking earlier in an opening remark, the state PDP chairman, Honorable Bello Goronyo, said the gesture was aimed at relieving households of the current hardship in demonstration of the party's spirit of empathy and kindness. The police command in Enugu State says it has raided an indigenous peoples of Biafra IPOB and its Eastern Security Network criminal hideout in Ekwuike axis of Enugu metropolis. The police operatives, however, met with resistance from the renegades who opened fire upon sighting them, but they were subdued by the superior firepower of the police, leading to the neutralization of 2 of the renegades. The command spokesperson, DSP Daniel Ndukwe, said in a statement on Sunday that the police conducted the raid on Saturday at about 2:30 a.m. He said that 1 AK-47 rifle, 1 submachine gun, SMG, 1 stainless pump action gun, PAG, and 27 live and 23 expended rounds of 7.62mm caliber ammunition were recovered after the raid and gun duel. The Taraba State Police Command has stated that 3 children died in the Dango Geta village, Karim Lamido local government area of the state following suspected accidental discharge from a den gun. The State Commissioner of Police, David Iloyomon, stated this while refuting claims made by some villagers who attributed the death to an explosion from improvised explosive devices. Iloyomon stated that the gunpowder from the den gun later exploded and killed them. The CP says the 3 deceased children were playing on a tree while 4 others who sustained injuries were on the ground as they are receiving treatment at the State Specialist Hospital in Jalingo, the state capital. The Federal Capital Territory Vehicle Inspection Office, FCTVIO, had inducted a new badge of volunteer road traffic and vehicle inspection mayors to assist in managing traffic flow across the nation's capital. The induction ceremony for the 2024 Batch A held in Abuja and presided over by Yusuf John Zebiru, the FCT squadron leader and national coordinator of the RTO VIO Mayors Program. In his remarks, Zebiru appreciated the new inductees for opting to contribute to nation building through traffic volunteerism. He urged them to be good ambassadors for the Directorate and the entire VIO Corps in their external traffic management role. The Civil Defense Correctional Fire and Immigration Services Board has announced that it will conclude the ongoing recruitment process into the Federal Fire Service on June 15, 2024. The Minister of Interior and Chairman of the Board, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, said the new date was in line with the board's reviewed timeline for the conduct of employment in paramilitary services under its purview. Tunji-Ojo, who spoke during the Secretary of the CDCFIB, Jafaru Ahmed, at the end of its quarterly review meeting with heads of the 4 paramilitary agencies under its supervision, said shortlisted candidates would be requested to visit the board's portal via messages to their emails and mobile phone numbers. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency have detained a 35-year-old lady, Chidima Chinyere Akabuzo, after she was caught attempting to export 20 parcels of cannabis sativa weighing 10.70 kg to Doha, Qatar through the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos. The illicit drug were said to have been concealed in African salad popularly called abacha and dried vegetables. The operation was carried out in conjunction with operatives of the Department of State Services. The anti-narcotic operatives also reportedly rejected a 5 million naira bribe from another suspect in Lagos State. You're watching AM News coming to you live from Nigeria's capital. We're on channel 276 on StarTimes. Kindly follow us on all social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. When AM News returns, Nigeria flares at $205.7 million gas in 2 months. These and other stories coming right after this break. Do stay with us. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching AM News on Global Television. And still in the news, Pope Francis gave Easter Mass with thanks of thousands of Catholics at the St. Peter's Square in Vatican City before his traditional blessing, as concerns persist over his health. The 87-year-old arrived in a wheelchair to preside over the Mass from 10 a.m. in the cloudy and windy weather, with the event broadcast live around the globe. France will pronounce the Obi et Obi to the city and the world blessing at midday, where he is expected to bring up the international conflict raging worldwide. On the foreign scene, at least 7 people have been killed in a car bombing which targeted a busy market in northern Syria. Several more were injured in the attack in the town of Azaz in Aleppo province near the Turkish border. It is unclear who carried out the attack in the town, which is run by pro-Turkish militias fighting Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Turkish forces and their proxies control large areas of Syria along the border the two countries share. When the bomb went off, the market was busy with shoppers buying new clothes for their children ahead of Eid al-Fitr. The bodies of 8 Chinese nationals have been found on a beach in the Mexican state of Oaxaca after their boat capsized, officials say. The bodies were found along a route used by illegal migrants trying to reach the United States. The 7 women and a man were on board a boat operated by a Mexican that set off from Chiapas state on the border with Guatemala. 1 other person survived. It was not clear what happened to the boat's driver. The prosecutor's office in Oaxaca said the bodies were found near a beach in the town of Playa Vente. It said it was investigating the cause of the accident and working with the Chinese embassy in Mexico to identify the victims. In business, Governor Obasani of Kaduna State has blamed the inability of his administration to pay workers' salary. The huge debts he said he inherited from the government of his predecessor, Nasir El-Rufai. Sani stated this while addressing a town hall meeting in Kaduna. The governor said his administration inherited a huge debt burden of $587 million and 85 billion naira and 115 contractual liabilities from his predecessor. He said 7 billion naira out of the 10 billion naira federal allocation for Kaduna in March was deducted to service the state's debt. Sani said the 3 billion naira which the state was left with was not enough to pay salaries, as the state's monthly salary bill stood at 5.2 billion naira. According to him, owing to the rise in the excess rent, the state is now paying back almost triple of what was borrowed by the previous administration. Amid the nationwide energy crisis, Nigeria finds itself grappling with a peculiar irony, as gas meant to alleviate power shortages is instead being wasted through flaring, leaving hundreds of thousands of homes without electricity. Natural gas, estimated at $205.7 million and capable of powering 4 million households, was flared in Nigeria in the first 2 months of 2024. Data obtained from the Nigerian Gas Flare Tracker of the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency showed the country flared about 58.8 million standard cubic feet in the first 2 months of this year, with a power generation potential of 4.04 thousand megawatts. The Central Bank of Nigeria has said it recorded an inflow of over $1.5 billion into the economy over the past few days, indicating that its monetary policy efforts are working positively. The bank's acting director, Corporate Communications Department, C.D. Ali, made the assertions in a statement. She noted that the data available to the bank indicated that the inflow resulted from the bank's effort to stabilize the foreign exchange market. Ali said the Naira has also continued to record gains in the autonomous foreign exchange market, as it traded at 1,309 Naira to a dollar, as against 1,611 Naira to a dollar in the second week of March 2024. Nigeria now produces crude oil from over 246 fields across the country and operates 188 production stations platforms, the federal government has stated. Data obtained in Abuja from the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, an agency of the federal government, indicated that Nigeria's oil-producing fields had been on the rise since the first commercial oil discovery. Nigeria is poised to boost production and enhance energy security with over 246 production fields, 2,777 producing strings, and 188 production stations and platforms, 4 gas terminals, 5 land terminals, and 11 FSOs, floating storage and offloading units, 18 FPSOs and floating production storage and offloading, and several other facilities at various stages of development. On the entertainment scene, fans who pre-ordered Beyonce's latest album on Vine are reporting that 5 of its tracks have gone missing. Cowboy Carter was released on critical acclaim on Friday, with reviews calling it a masterpiece and a sleek and stirring Western epic. But some of the best-received songs, including Yaya and Spaghetti, are reportedly not present in the Vine edition. It is not clear whether all Vine copies are affected. Fans have also reported that CD copies are missing 4 tracks. In sports, the players and officials of the African champion, South Africa's women's national team, will land in Nigeria on Easter Monday for the Paris Olympic final qualifying fixture against the Super Falcons. Coach Desiree Ellis' side will arrive in Abuja on Monday, April 1st, 2024, ahead of the first leg of the final round of the Paris 2024 Olympics qualifier. Home-based players will pass South Africa with officials on the same day of arrival. Foreign players are expected to join the South African counterparts in Nigeria from their various bases. The much talked about Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk battle has finally reached a point of no return, with the undercard title fight against on May 18 now officially confirmed. Fury and Usyk will finally meet in the ring as part of Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia to crown the first undisputed heavyweight champion of the 4-belt era. The winner of the highly anticipated fight will also unify the division for the first time since Lennox Lewis defeated Evander Holyfield in March 1999. African Games gold medalist Esther Kolawole has expressed determination to win a medal at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games after booking her ticket at the qualifiers in Egypt. Kolawole overcame Angelina Rodriguez of Cape Verde by 10-0 technical superiority in the women's 62 kg at the 2024 African Oceanic Olympic qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt. The 2022 Commonwealth Games bronze medalist then expressed her gratitude for the support she has gotten from the wrestling family. Kolawole is joined by 5 other Nigerians: Odunayo Adekoroye, Blessing Oborodudu, Hannah Ruben, Christiana Ogunsoya, Ashton Mutua, who have booked Olympic tickets for the competition in Paris. As we end the AM Global News, let's take a look at our top stories. Federal government announced date for conclusion of fire service recruitment. Kogi government denied attacking SDP witnesses at election tribunal. NDLEA intercepted Qatar-bound drugs. Officers rejected a 5 million naira bribe. On the foreign scene, Pope Francis presided over Easter Sunday Mass. 8 Chinese migrants have been found dead on Mexico Beach. And in sports, South Africa set to arrive in Nigeria today for the Paris 2024 Super Falcons clash. That's it on AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times, channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms at Global TV, NG, and other handles now showing on your screen. I am Anthony Momodu saying thank you for watching, and see you again.
Well, thank you for staying with us, everyone. This is the point to put our first discussion on the road for you. This morning, I'm joined via Zoom live from Lagos this morning by Oladotun Hassan, as a lawyer, public affairs commentator, as well as president, Yoruba Council Worldwide. I should say happy Easter to you, Oladotun.
Yeah, good morning, Nigerians and viewers. It's a pleasure to be on your program this morning. Happy Easter.
I'm sure you've been enjoying your holiday so far.
It's been a mixed bag of activities. So we thank God.
All right, so I mean, you are a lawyer, one who is evidently passionate about developments often in this country. So I'm just going to take you straight up to our discussion, which is about this idea of pension for ex-governors. I mean, it has become a phenomenon, for want of better words. How did that even start in the first instance?
Well, you know, we have an history of colonialism. From there, we got to advanced military incursion. From there, we never even know what kind of system of government is best suitable for us. Currently, agitation do we go back to parliamentary? Do we retain presidential? We lack navigation. We lack planning. We lack this, mindset to strategically think of what best suits us. And that permeates every strata of our governance system. And that is why when you look at the way we are now coming about, it's just this grab syndrome. The grab syndrome is what led to our elected officials who are just meant to serve for 4 years or probably 3 years time. Even local government chairman, councillors want to get emolument and the severance package. And to me, I see it as more of just feeding the lame dog. And these are just the situation we find ourselves. It's unconstitutional, it's unlawful, it's illicit, it's immoral, and it doesn't lack reasoning for somebody to be elected only to be looking out to be paid pensions. And you see former governors behind their cars being changed, retaining house for them in Abuja. These are just obnoxious systems, systemic failure. And it's predicated on corruption. So corruption has no two names. These sweet things and legis that we are talking about are highly detrimental to our development. And, you look at at one of the Eastern governors have said he's not going to be collecting such. But it is not about this fanfare of, I'm rejecting, like the former governor of Ogun State, Benga Daniel, once came out and so he's rejecting his monthly severance package since he's a senator. What of when he was never a senator? Is he even entitled to such? That is the issue. Our politicians seem to take us on a voyage of deceit, taking advantage of the high level poverty that we have in the land to impoverish the people, more not to knowing that those things they are doing are not to the advantage of people. That money being paid to the former governors to this and that can be utilized for better infrastructural development. But because even the present governance within the present administration, within various states, are lacking in reasoning to deliver. So once they cannot deliver, all they are just looking at is monthly vote. How do I siphon the security vote? How do I convert and part budget? How do I bring out fake contracts and all these things? These are just part of the corruption that is affecting us. So to me, I'm not in support of this, and I want the president to stamp this as illegal. Even if he had benefit from, as a former governor of Lagos State, he had cars, he had yearly turnaround maintenance. Those things are highly illegal. Is he still collecting the money while he's still the president? What of those that are now senators? They are collecting double payment in their state. That's even in civil service. You cannot be paid twice. So these are just common issues that is affecting the polity.
It's quite a sad narrative you just painted there, Oladetu. But let's look at this a situation now where, of course, this is look, enough is enough. Let's call a spade a spade. There's no better time to put an end to this obnoxious practice called pension package for ex-governors. Do you think that's long overdue, or is it a matter of better late than never? Are you still there?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, so I was asking, I mean, we have seen a practice where across the Federation, from Lagos to Akwa Ibom to even Edo, for example, we have seen again and again how that governors leave office, some go to Senate, others take other forms of appointments, yet they are paid this obnoxious pension package. And for a state like Abia State, I mean, look at what Governor Alex Otti has done just a matter of days ago. A man who has seen both sides of the coin, public life, private life. Some people say, well, this is long overdue. Should have done it. I mean, some governors should have done it way earlier. But would you say this is a case of better late than never?
You know, we tend to be carried away when we see Eldorado display by some governors that they are performing. Yes, what are they elected for if not to come and do the job that they have been elected to do? If you are a civil servant, you must serve well. That's the duty you are employed to do. You don't even need a clap. You have to just do those jobs. But because we are entrenched in negativity and we are never seeing it.
Okay, it will appear we're having a bit of a network problem there. Hopefully, I mean, our guest now, Oladetu Hassan, will rejoin us in the course of the program this morning. But he was basically talking about how that some governors are doing it for no other purpose than one that is self-serving, or to grandstand, or put differently, to give the impression, create a front that they're working. But while that may be some valid points, is it also possible that we should call a spade a spade? I'm sure we have Oladetu Hassan back on the program now.
Yes, you know, just as I was saying, we must commend Alex Otti for that display of a I'll call it a servant leader, because we used to have that word sometimes before now, when Babangida Ali says he's a servant leader. But at the end of the day, after their tenure, that is where you can be able to really score them well if they have not used this decoy to siphon our money, because that's always been the issues. No matter how these good governors that you see what parading to be actively doing one or two things, that is what they are employed to do. And if they are doing it, if they are not doing it well, it goes to tell about their posterity. But that notwithstanding, what is bad is bad. This system of governors, in fact, senators are even yearning to be collecting the same pensions. It's really, is a systemic failure. But the fact that we don't have cognate laws that will ban the leadership. It seems the law that governs those at the ends of power is different from the laws that operate to majority of us that are on this side of the divide. So we just need to be on the same page. We need to begin to have a robust plan that do away with all these systemic shenanigans of, oh, I want to be collecting this. Even some governors just want to be a chief governor of the state, governor emeritus, just want to be producing governors behind them and also be having hands in the state coffers, in the state purse. That's what we are leaning on. whereby the wife of the former governor will still want to take charge of the present governor. That's what is happening in Kogi State. You see it all around every day. The former governor of Lagos State, Ambode, had issues with Tinubu because of this systemic failure. So, but if it is truly democracy, that the people will be at the center to determine who to employ and how to sack them, then everybody will sit tight. But because our politicians believe that they can control our people and maneuver them deceitfully, that is the major problem, because they take advantage of the poverty-stricken Nigerians, majority, and these are the voting majority. Even those that are on the side of the House hardly vote. You see just few of them relaxing on election day, but because the majority are on the side of poverty line, that is why you see them sharing bag of rice for them. This time, these are signs and symptoms of a failed democracy. Because when our democracy is predicated on Ankara, cloth, rice, and kerosene, and all this sharing, and aftermath of election, once you get the vote, then you leave the same povertarians to their fate. That is really not the best way. And that's why I'm calling that in as much as National Assembly are trying to work on a review constitution, for me, as an advocate and a constitutional lawyer, I still believe that the president must do the needful to write his name in gold, that there are some ailments that is bedeviling this country. Even former presidents are not entitled to any severance package. The only thing you are entitled to is your social welfare, like health. You go to some places, they give you the honor as a former president, nothing more. Before you're coming to become president, you must have a job you are doing. And after much, you must return back to your job. So you must not put your burden on the rest of us for coming to serve us. Majority of these people don't even serve us. They serve themselves into penury. They siphon the state to the last sign of blood. So this is not the way to go. If we must get it right, let us begin to set standard laws, new people's constitution that really decentralize the state, give how much should be paid, what and how that money should be collected, how states and legislature and the National Assembly must do their jobs. But everybody just want to be on a payroll. Either you work or you don't work. Even you go to civil service, the same problem that governors are always looking for something. Civil servants will also go and lace the payment platform with ghost workers. You just put names and collect salaries of over 100 people and you think you are making prosperity. That is failure. That is, it's really, an eyesore. But I just believe, as passionate as I am to the cause of this country, I just believe that the best way we can get it right is is to tell the truth at the right time. Say it the way it is. No need to garnish it. Payment of emolument and salaries or pensions for former elected officials. So the only people that are entitled are civil servants that have served 35 years of course of service, not somebody coming for 4 years. What amount? What really gives that person that temerity? Because your party gave you form, you serve the people, and you think after that 4 years you are now remain a stigma in the pain and the pain in the neck. Because this payment that goes to all the former governors till they are dead is wrong. Even while they have their jobs, they still earn more money from their backlog of corrupt loot. Yet they still want to, as problematic and chaotic they are, they still go down to be collecting this monthly salary or pensions. To me, it's very wrong, it's inimical, and it's illegal. And there is no law, I believe there is no law that warrants such. They just give themselves the fiat as something, it's a culture, let us do it. Because once you leave, you must also come back and end. If OT is doing it, OT is a former MD of a bank. So he's not a poor man. So doing that and telling us that, this is standard, it's not by standard. What if he's not a banker? Would he have done that? But because these people have their own thinking. He's doing great. It's trying to set standard of governance, but it should be a nation. They should nationalize it and scrap it. Once they are looking for state security, state policy, they should be scrapping former elected officials' pensions from president to the governors. Even legislatures that are collecting such should be done away with. So, and I believe that once we are setting such standards, people will always see elected position as a mission to serve, not a mission to enrich corruptly.
It sounds very interesting to put it this way, but I'm just going to ask you this, right? For other states, I mean, do you see this Alex Otti example as maybe a spur, or if you like, a source of inspiration for other state governors to say there's no better time to do the right thing than now? But then again, pension package for ex-governors across this country, it's not just the only drain pipe that we have. There are several other drain pipes, I mean, most of which time will fail us to start to itemize on the program this morning. Let's use this as a basis, Oladuchun, to have a conversation about the urgent need to cut cost of governance in this country from top to bottom.
Well, you know, cutting cost of governance is just like Mr. President telling us that, oh, I'm banning ministers from traveling. The next morning, his first son and family members are the first people to join him to Qatar. This is not by leadership. It's not leadership by example. You don't tell us this is what you want to do and the other thing is what you do. For the fact that I love the president, for the fact that I'm one of his ardent followers, I always also want to tell him the truth, even if I see him to his face. For the fact that this is our country. People are yearning for good governance. We are in drought of good governance. We've never even had governance for the past 60 years. Let me tell you, we've never had a straight line governance for the past 60 years when it comes to how the people needs to be carried along. The people are always left at the last tail of the ladder. They are not even considered on the table. So if it is for us to cut costs, those that are at the ends of affairs knows what budget they are supposed to do, not the one they are padding. Those that are what Otti is doing, it should have been a perfect example for other governors who, if they are genuinely committed to serve. So, for me, I just believe that we can get it right if once we are determined to get it. And Nigerians are watchful, but because we don't have this connect, once our people, the day, I bet it with you, the day our citizens, Nigerian citizens, get it right in their reasoning about what democracy is defined to be, not this shouting match of obedience, articulated, and those are not the democracy. Once Nigerians know that once my thumb gives you the right to serve me, you are my servant, I'm not subservient to you. Once they determine that right, and they know the power of their thumb, then it's going to be more better interpreted that we are now matured. But now we are crawling because our citizens are in their need of information to guide them and orientate them on what the essence of democracy is. And our leaders don't want them to know because they need to be teaching these values and virtues from the basic education. This should be part of our curriculum. That once you are this, once every citizen know that you must learn nationalism, patriotism, and how to grow the state, then it will add value. But because they remove some subjects, they don't want the citizens to be aware of some staples, and it's even killing those that are the ends of affairs and those that are in the system. It's the same ailment because you that is not ready for the people down to learn, you yourself will not grow. In Yoruba, they will say, Olowo Konaro to Shimepa. Himself is a poor man. When you are a rich man and you are amongst poor vast multitude of people, your money will always, by the time you share that money to those poor people, you will come back to be poor. That is the system. But because our politicians always have that stockpile loot, stock outside the country, used to acquire real estate, because that is the trend. They convert money and use it to acquire real estate. and they use proxies. So these are the trend that is killing us, and we can get it right. And I want to implore, just as I've always reiterated, that there must be corrective measures to stop this shenanigans. There must be corrective measure and determination for all Nigerians to wake up. It's not a matter of chanting restructuring. It's a matter of necessity that if you are a leader, lead right. If you want to govern, govern well. So it's just one musician that has said, oh, lead us well, the senator, senate us well. You must senate well if you are really a senator. Not senators that will go and be telling us junks. For the House Committee Chairman on Appropriations to be telling us that budget of judiciary is not captured in national budget. What a hell! You don't tell us that. You are the heart and soul of the entire government. That is the National Assembly. You must be checkmating and balancing. That's what the National Assembly, and that's why we have representatives from various constituencies to lend a voice. Ordinarily, we don't even need to have National Assembly in democracy. If it is just all about just having governance, look, you just have that elected out. Just imagine we don't have senators, we don't have assembly. What will be the difference? Nothing, because these people are even more burdensome to governance than even government to get it right, because they want to also cohort them into the web of corruption, and it makes the purse more bigger to swallow more money for their own private interest. So that if you know that we don't even, there are some certain things, by the time I get to be thinking about it, that's okay. Do we really understand this democracy itself? Are we prepared for it? It's not about chanting Christianity, Muslim, and once you just see one person, because you hate the person's face for ethnicity reason or for religious reason, you just don't want that person there. We need to do away with all this. But that's why we are not getting it right. Everybody just wants to be carried along. They just say, carry me along. To where? Where are they carrying you along to? To Golgotha or to Promised Land? No, there's no direction. So the people that are leading us is just more or less the blind leading the blind. We need to get it right. We need our eyes to be open. And this issue of Alex Otti should form a basis for a national campaign to stop pensions for former elected officials. It is illegal. It is uncalled for. Maybe as a matter of priority, I'll lead up a legal battle to consolidate this issue so that we need to really solve this once and for all.
Well, thank you so much, Oladochun Hassan, lawyer, public commentator, and President Yoruba Council Worldwide, for sharing your thoughts with us this Easter Monday morning on Global Morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
We're taking a quick break now, everyone, but we would like to join Anthony Momodu as we we'll bring you a wrap-up of sports from last week.
Hello and welcome to Business Reports on Global Morning. In order to strengthen the financial...
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Sports News Update. Liverpool have been dealt a serious blow in their search for a new manager when Xavi Alonso, the frontrunner for the job, turned them down. The former Reds midfielder 42 had been strongly linked with replacing Jurgen Klopp at Anfield, but now plans to stay with runaway German league leaders Bayer Leverkusen. The bombshell leaves Sporting Lisbon manager Ruben Amorim as the leading candidate alongside Brighton's Roberto De Zerbi. Amorim, 39, is expected to be given an interview after he scored well in Liverpool's data test. Bayern Munich had declared their desire to recruit Alonso, perhaps a tactic to unsettle Leverkusen's title tilt, but club president Uli Hoeneß says it would be probably impossible to bring the Spaniard to Munich this year. Liverpool's recruitment drive, led by new sporting director Richard Hughes and CEO of football Michael Edwards, now focuses on Amorim and De Zerbi, whose Brighton side visit Anfield on Sunday. Sandro Tonali is likely to escape an additional gambling ban despite being hit with 50 fresh allegations of betting on football matches after his transfer to Newcastle. The Italy midfielder is already serving a 10-month suspension set to expire on August 27th, having admitted to breaking gambling rules in his home country. Tonali, who joined the Magpies for £52 million from AC Milan in July, was given the worldwide ban by Italian authorities in October. The football Football Association then launched their own investigation, and they have now confirmed the 23-year-old has been charged with misconduct in relation to 50 bets on games between August 12 and October 12 of last year. He made his Newcastle debut on August 12, scoring in a 5-1 win over Aston Villa, and was first questioned in Italy in October 12. He later told investigators he had a gambling addiction. Manchester United reportedly want to buy Juventus defender Gleison Bremer for £51 million and could hand over Mason Greenwood in a shock exchange. United's interest in Bremer is already well documented, but it now has emerged that they are willing to stump up a fee in Juventus' desired ballpark. Bremer won the Serie A Best Defender award in 2020-2021 season with Torino and is also on the radar of Real Madrid and Chelsea. Sending Greenwood in a swap deal would be a bold move, but it could help get him off the books, especially instead of finding a buyer, as United have an asking price of £34 million. With the money and Greenwood together, a deal would be possible, according to La Gazzetta dello Sport. Proposals to increase squad sizes for Euro 2024 has crucial support from major nations as UEFA confirmed they will consider the extension. England head coach Gareth Southgate revealed this week that squad capacity for the tournament could increase from 23 to 26, and a UEFA spokesman confirmed, "We have taken note of comments expressed by some national team coaches on the squad size for Euro 2024. A workshop with the participating teams will be held on April 8th, and on the occasion, UEFA will listen to the views of the coaches. Any idea in this respect will be considered and assessed." Holland head coach Ronald Koeman is among those in favor of a mooted increase. Germany head coach Julian Nagelsmann is also understood to be among those in favor of a 26-man squad amid the feeling there is enough backing for the squad extension to be granted by UEFA, who will be guided by the coaches. During the delayed Euro 2020, nations were permitted to name 26 players due to the implication of strict COVID restrictions. Ball boys and girls will no longer be able to hand balls directly to players in the Premier League matches as the top flight looks to clamp down on teams getting advantage in their way after several incidences this season. Tensions spilled over in a recent FA Cup match, and Coventry manager Mark Robbins was branded disgusted for taunting a ball boy at Molineux. The youngster had been taking masses of time to return the ball to Coventry players when home side Wolves were winning. The incident shone a national spotlight on how teams have been using ball assistance to gain an edge or put away the team at disadvantage. Elite clubs such as Manchester City and Liverpool were given direct instructions to kids in the past to make them part of the game. Chelsea will appoint a new chairman in 2027 to replace Todd Boehly. Mail Sport understands, as part of an extraordinary arrangement, the club's American co-owners can pass the chairmanship between themselves every 5 years, and it can be revealed that the intention is to do just that when the opportunity arises at the end of the 2026-2027 season. Under the terms of the group's takeover, Boehly is thought to have gone first despite holding minority stake. Bayern Munich president Uli Hoeneß believes the club have almost no chance of bringing Xabi Alonso as the next manager this summer. The German giants revealed last month that they will not be renewing Thomas Tuchel's contract, with the former Chelsea boss set to depart at the end of the season. The search for Tuchel's successor is already underway, and Bayern have already heavily linked with Alonso, whose Bayern Leverkusen side are 10 points clear at the top of the Bundesliga and have not lost a game in all competitions this season. Hoeneß admitted he would like Alonso to join Bayern, but he expects the Spaniard to stay put and build on the success in Leverkusen. And that's how we call it a wrap on the Sports News Update. I am Anthony Momodu.
Okay, so let's do the second discussion quickly, everyone. By the way, Queen Agaba has joined. You know, I made a promise earlier, so my word has come through.
Good morning.
Queen, how was your weekend?
It was beautiful. Happy Easter Monday.
Yes, I wish you the same.
I'm public holidays, just that we're not observing a holiday.
Yes, we're observing our own way as the job would demand, right? We're joined by a gentleman via Zoom live from Edo State Capital, Benin City, the state chairman, that is Edo State chairman of Labour Party, Comrade Kelly Ogbalo. It's a delight to have you join us. First time on Global Morning.
Yeah, good morning, Agbomofegwe. How are you doing? Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you again and welcome.
Thank you.
All right, great. So we're just going to start out. I mean, I'm sure you are home now, because home in this case is Labour Party, a party that you have been a part and parcel of for as long as I can remember. Last time you and I met in person and talked about the Labour Party,
yes, please,
and where it was heading, particularly in light of the obedience movement. It was in 2022, around the middle of the year at that point, and things were really looking up, and things did look up because the movements evolved real quick, and some people say became like a threat to even the established parties, whether the APC or the PDP. That doesn't seem to be the reality today. I'd like you to speak to us as to the elements fundamentally that have changed about your party.
Well, I like to say thank you, Agbomofegwe, for having me this morning. It's nice talking with you after a long time. I do not think that anything has tremendously changed from the position you used to know. But what has happened rather is that we are making general reviews, checking what was done then and how appropriate is it in the current time, making adjustment where we went wrong at that time, and be on the drawing board again. Because we have a task ahead of us in Edo State to ensure that we produce the governor. And this task is quite monumental. It's not a joke, because we have to face some other political parties that have been, can be regarded as war horses, even when you describe it from the negative perspective. Yes, they are. And so we are working very tight to ensure that no stone is left unturned. So I can assure you that the obedient group, the Labour Party, are still consistently together and moving into this task to ensure that we're able to deliver on our desires.
Yes, I mean, that's some very amazing optimism you have expressed there. But let's talk about the, so to speak, mechanics of your party, the internal working of your party. For a while now, it has been this element around the Abure faction, the Lamidia Papa faction. Of course, we understand that this matter had been in and out of one court after another. In what ways is this development impacting your party?
Well, the impact is quite negative, but it's so because political activism is contestation. Yes, whether you are right or wrong, yeah, you want to contest issues. It's quite not palatable. That is not what Labour Party desire, but we had it. But what is the good news is that as of today, we've gone in and out of court and quite several of these cases we have won, and then so we are continuing to ensure that the image of the party is redeemed as unwittingly and criminally put before the public domain by the Papa group, because in all that they have told the public about the party and the leadership, from the position of the court recently, you'll find that there was no substance, there was nothing to rely on all of that. But I can show you, yes, there were breaches, terrible breaches that were made by Papa and others, and it's not quite a good one. So I'm not going to take away the fact that it didn't have negative perspective. When it did, you found that the general public we have today, quite a percentage is highly gullible. And so they do not refine, they do not cross-check, they do not research informations before they take them in and make issues out of them. So it is this respect, I agree with you totally that yes, there was an effect that was not too pleasant.
My colleague, Quinn, by the way, will pop up a few questions in the course of this conversation. But I just want to ask you this very quickly. Recently, we saw that there has been a face-off between the Nigeria Labour Congress, that is the NLC, and the Labour Party. As a matter of fact, some individuals from the NLC had even picketed the National Secretariat of the Labour Party here in the nation's capital. Walk us through the actions that led to such a development.
Well, I can say to you that that again is unfortunate. It ought not to be, but I'm very sure that the Nigeria Labour Congress, where I am a veteran, it had dwelled on some misconception and allow it to be dragged into what should not have been. Ordinarily, NSC is part of the owners of the party. That cannot be taken away, because this came into be, the party came into be when Adams Oshiomhole was the president of Congress. Of course, the desire to do was so, and before then, and Adams, and so many of us in Congress then actually ensure that Labour Party was established. But when an entity is established and is given its own constitution, it has a life of its own, very clearly. If you listen to the president of TUC some time ago, you get the facts of this discussion. That the fact that we could join and found Labour Party does not assign or give away the total ownership of the party to any NSC as it is being put today. When a party is founded and it runs its own constitution, and the financial members of that party becomes the owner. So you can ask from history to today, what have been the contribution financially, of NSC to the party, apart from the fact that they are grandstanding now to say we funded the party. Yes, you funded it, but it's running a constitution and it's funding itself. So that does not make you now start asking such questions that you shouldn't ask. It is the members of the party who are financial members that have the competence in law, to request reports for the party, not those who are no members of the party. As we speak to ourselves now, how many of the civil servants are members of the Labour Party? I can tell you an example. The chairman of Nigeria Labour Congress in Edo State is a PDP card carrying member in Edo State. So how can you claim ownership of the Labour Party in that manner? How many of them have joined the party from the basis of the word and all of them? So they allow themselves to be dragged into sentiments and begin to do all of this, which wasn't needed. Of course, if you find anything wrong, I expect that you bring it to the House, we discuss it and then resolve and move on. Not running to the media and doing press releases and then castigating the leadership of the party, a party that you claim to own. By the time you destroy it, thinking that you are destroying the leadership of the party, what do you have left? Not afterwards. But I think that in greater respect, there are external factors leading to all of this. Because I've never seen a party that go into criminal criticism of itself the way it's happening in the Labour Party. So this shows that even those who criticize are not real members of the party. I can tell you this. So in summary, sir, I'm saying that yes, as much as we can consign to NSC as being part of Labour Party, they cannot come to take total ownership, especially when they are defaulted in the financial participation of the party. And as I speak to you, in the Constitution of Nigeria Labour Congress, the two trade centers are represented in the administration of the party at the National Working Committee. So you cannot therefore say we are alienated the way they are going. So I think this is the story so far.
What's the future of the Labour Party following this rift and division between, the Apapa Lamidi part of the party and then the NLC? What do you make of, this, and then what does the future hold, owing to the fact that Peter Obi has threatened, to leave the party, quoting the Bible, if this rift continues?
Well, for Peter Obi, I'm not aware of that news yet, so I will not address it. But I can tell you that no single individual is better than the collection of many persons who are also intelligent, as it were. So I can tell you that the content of Labour Party is a collection of high intelligent persons, and so we cannot be intimidated by anybody. That is that of that. That of Lamidi, it's out of the way because they have gone in and out of court, and you found out that in each of the cases they are defeated. We got judgment against them. So it's not in contention. And I'm so sure that we cannot count on that anymore as at the moment. For the NSA, I've just explained to you, there is a grandstanding coming from them, because if you juxtapose the position of the TUC at the NSA, you see that it's different. It's a TUC not part of the unions of Labour Party. They are, actually. So that's why I've said to you that they need to go back and they think it is the financial members of this party that can ask questions about the operation of the party, not those who are no financial members. And I can tell you very clearly that very well, members, the NSC is not a financial member of the party, so it cannot ask us questions.
I'm going to ask you this quickly. In Nigeria, they say the president is the leader of the party, which means in the case of APC, evidently, President Bola Tinubu is the leader of the party. When we had Goodluck Jonathan as president in this country, at least up till 2015, we were told that he was the leader of the party as well. That practice, right or wrong, runs across states in this country. For example, in my home state, Edo State, Governor Godwin Obaseki is the leader of the People's Democratic Party. The people in that party don't need to like it. They don't need to be comfortable with it. But it is what it is now, because he did remind them on the very day he went there to formally register as a member of the party. That said, is it correct to say Peter Obi is the leader of the Labour Party? I mean, the de facto leader, as they say in Latin.
Well, a lot of regards and respect have been allowed. Our Peter Obi is a great man. Yes, he's a leader. We can't take it away from him. We accept that. And a leader, as it were, is to ensure that everything within the party is followed, and the right thing and the constitutional provisions are equally followed. So if in any case a leader seems to be outside the confines of the dictates of the Constitution, then such a leader will as well be called to question. So if you ask me, yes, he's a leader of the party.
There are people in your party now, Comrade Ogbaloy, a good number of them high up the leadership ranks of your party, who now believe that Julius Abure, a lawyer himself, has flouted the laws severally. That's on one hand. On the other hand, they say he has overstayed his welcome. Add to that the belief by some people, again in your party, that Abure is now more of a liability, a baggage, than an asset. Do you share those sentiments?
I do not share the sentiment at all. Abure can be a liability, a man who stood in grounds and stayed in the party to bring it to the level at which it's becoming, at which it did now become a bride that is needed by all of them, a bride that everybody is drifting to catch up. Say such a man that is.
We seem to be losing stream with
well, that might be now.
Can you hear us, Comrade Ogbaloy? Just go ahead if you can hear us. Okay, I think that was a loss of stream there. Hopefully we get reconnected. Yes, as quickly as possible. Yes, we can hear you all right. Okay, so we just hope to get that connection back on as quickly as possible so we can continue this conversation with Comrade Kelly Ogbaloy, Edo State Chairman of the Labour Party. So far, he has made several salient points. We're just saying a couple of seconds ago That's Julius Aburi, the de facto...
No, there wasn't...
Yes, we can hear you all right. Okay, there's a bit of a break there. Let's take a quick break, everyone, while we reconnect with our guests, and we're back shortly. We understand Comrade Kelly Ogbaloy has rejoined us. Now, thank you, Comrade, for your patience with us on the program this morning. Hopefully you can hear us now. It appears the technical glitch has persisted, but we just have to get this discussion to a logical conclusion of some kind, especially with the Peter Obi element that Kelly Ogbaloy was explaining just a while ago. We need to see how that pans out for the Labour Party, because the narrative probably is not complete without the Obi factor. Some people say the obedience movement factor, but then we keep our fingers crossed and hoping that we reconnect as quickly as possible. So Queen, he was talking a while ago about how that, yes, with due respect to Peter Obi, a man who by all means is a leader, all right, and nobody wants to in any way disparage him or discount that fact. But he was also making a point as to how that the party already has an established leadership structure. Some of the most intellectual minds in this country are members of the Labour Party right from day one, not just because of the 2023 general election. That's the point he was making. Before that, he had also said that the de facto chairman of the party, Julius Abure, isn't a baggage or a liability, because according to him, by his own assessment, this is a man who has brought the party to where it is today. As a matter of fact, he used the term the bride that everybody now suddenly desires. I'm sure that's one conversation. I mean, that part of the narrative is what he wants to further, yes, this morning once we reconnect with him. I mean, we have not lost touch of how the labor movement became ubiquitous at some point in 2022, even into 2023, became a big factor. You almost couldn't talk about the election, the campaigns, without the labor movement. What kind of conversation were you having at that time?
It was a conversation of not necessarily about the Labour Party, but because, you know, the person who has made this Labour Party now very popular, especially to the Gen Zs and people who prior to that time of the election didn't follow politics. It was more of, the conversation was more of the Peter Obi conversation.
Not just the Labour Party.
Not just the Labour Party, because of his person and, you know, what he has shown before the election, during the election, and even after the election. So the conversation was around Peter Obi. And now that we see that a lot of people are beginning to come to terms with what the Labour Party is, what it entails, how the Labour Party has been before now, because of the fractions that we can see now in the Labour Party, the friction and some sort of breakouts between the Apapa Lamidi faction of the party and then the NLC faction of the party. So like Mr. Ogbaloy said, you know, the party is, he says, the party is made up of brilliant people. So when I was asking what becomes of the Labour Party moving forward, the party is made up of, regardless of the, you know,
the competent, resourceful Nigerians who are members of the party and all that. I think he was just going to speak to that before the technical glitch snaps that connection of broadcast this morning, but we're looking forward to a restoration of that feed as quickly as possible. By the way, Comrade Kelly Ogbaloy is joining us live via Zoom from Benin this morning. We hope network will be our friend in the course of this conversation today. But like Queen said a while ago, if you followed politics only in 2022, let's even say for the last half of 2022 into 2023, you obviously can't or couldn't have missed what the narrative had been like. I mean, the drastic change that we had seen in political space at that time, and up till now, it will appear politics has not recovered from, you know, that change that we saw, that, if you like, turn of events, which had not been the case. Because prior to the election, I mean, at least 6 months, 1 year to the election, is usually about APC and PDP and so on and so forth. But with the Labour Party and then the NNPP, for example, the Kwankwaso element, the Kwankwasia movement, also coming into the mix, it became a bit more robust environments to look at. And we hope in all of this, Nigeria and Nigerians become the winner, because politicians will always be politicians, whether you like it or not. There are those who are, who can see beyond their political party as long as everything is well within their party. They either don't care about what happens to Nigeria and Nigerians, or they just assume that all is well, because that's the only key performance indicator that they have, that they know, that they want to use. But then we're taking a quick break now. Once we reconnect, we're back on the show. Do stay with us, everyone. This is the part of the program where we'll bring you papers this morning. Queen and I have 11 of them, but I'm just going to start out with the first, which is First News. Big story says Easter message. Our leaders look like men in drunken stupor, says Bishop Kukah. Did I hear you say Bishop Kukah is back? NDLEA apprehends woman attempting to smuggle cannabis to Qatar. And then about the Star story, economic hardship, palliatives, not solutions, says Governor Diri, that's Bayelsa State Governor. Okay, First News editor, thanks all. Your outcry saved my life. That's the editor that had been kidnapped for some time. Social critic, very dark man released from police detention after 9 days. I did see that just yesterday. We are made to believe that it was Deji Adeyanju who had seen to his release, but then tongues, as usual, have been wagging across social media, particularly Instagram, Twitter, X as we now know it, Facebook. Social critic, okay, we've taken that story, by the way. EPL, Liverpool defeats Brighton to go top as Arsenal, Man City play goalless draw. All right, that's another story right there for you. Then there's a headline that has a picture of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Be selfless, Obasanjo urges Nigerian leaders. Pope Francis advocates for global peace in Easter message. And then at the foot of First Newspaper today, RFI Sani Rift Lukman urges APC's intervention.
Yeah, and the next paper would be the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, just above the nameplate, we have banks. Euro Bank foreign investors for 4 trillion naira fresh capital. Also, naira closes 1,309 naira to a dollar as banks sell $2.5 billion. Also, Dangote, 116 others get tax holiday over 2.5 trillion naira investment. We have Delta bloodbath, fleeing Okoma villages lament hunger and snake bite. Easter, the big story. Easter, governors, senators beg Nigerians, say hardship over soon. Tinubu, and the writer there says Tinubu will steer Nigeria to greatness, says Zulum. Other governors preach love, condemn crimes. Sets deadline on war against terror. Kuka tells president, Pope seeks peace in Africa. TCN raises the alarm over planned attacks on power facilities. Police begin search as Benue man drowns in Ogun. And lastly, on the Punch newspaper, we have confusion as man dies in car during Good Friday service. You find that story on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. Our next paper.
Let's see what we have next for our papers this morning. Quite a number of them, no doubt about that. But then we're just going to take a look at the Nation for you. All right, let's see what the Nation has got. Big story in front of it. Says Ondo 2024 governorship. Jimo Ibrahim, I'm the most qualified. What's more on the front page with regards to that story? It says 9 universities degrees, 2 national FGN honors, OFR and CFR, served as temporary president of the 148th General Assembly meeting of the International Parliamentary Union, IPU, Geneva 2024. That sounds quite impressive, no doubt about it. But then it's the people of Ondo State that will determine who becomes their governor in November of this year. 3 presidential jets proposed for sale. Cost of maintenance now a burden to government. You find that story on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. Cardinal's death. El-Rufai's son Bello disagrees with brother. Clergymen, leaders preach peace, love to mark Easter. Those are basically the stories we have for you today on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Our next paper will be The Matrix. The Matrix newspaper. And on the front page of The Matrix newspaper, we have Serap issues ultimatum to 36 governors. Wike to account for 5.9 trillion naira, $4.6 billion loan. That's on the Matrix newspaper. And also the big story on the Matrix, we have at Easter, Kuka, Atiku calls for national healings. Atiku calls for national healings. The writer there on the Matrix newspaper says that quite tiny. It says, other stories on the Matrix. Peter Obi flaming religious ethic, passion for political ambition, says presidency. You find that story on page 63 of the Matrix newspaper. INEC releases list of Guber candidates for Edo 2024. Shoibu's name missing. Recall of BDCs into mainstream FX market, tightening monetary policies responsible for Naira stability, says APCON. And that story is on pages 9 of the Matrix newspaper. Lastly, we have Laju Ire, filmmaker, wants her movies to inspire billions of people across the world. I beg your pardon, that's not the last story on the Matrix. We also have Chief of Army Staff Lagbaja talks tough, says Army determined to defeat terrorist bandits. Also, ahead of reopening, FG installing CCTV satellites on 3rd Mainland Bridge. This is credited to Umahi. And that's all we have on the Matrix newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Daily Independent for you, where we have stories, several headlines as well this morning. All right, on the Daily Independent. Okay, says palliatives not solution to hardship, says Bayelsa Governor. That's Governor Duyodiri, obviously, of Bayelsa State. Kuka asks Tinubu to in place plans towards achieving food security. Says we are not in the war. No one needs to line up to receive aid. That's Bishop Kuka again there, speaking this time directly to President Bola Tinubu. But this is time where we bring you the star story on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper. Says CBN new capital base, 5 lenders may seek license downgrade. All right, we have that. Police confirm abduction of 3 UNICAL students. The sad details of the story can be found on page 6 of the Daily Independent. When you take a look at the left side of your front page of the Daily Independent, APC should wade into rift between El-Rufai, Governor Sani, says party's former NWC member. As Kaduna APC suspends women leader for criticizing governor. We are determined to defeat terrorism, banditry, Chief of Army Staff. APC urges Nigerians to stay hopeful of prosperous future. Angola to open Visa Investment Center in Port Harcourt tomorrow. Sarab gives governors, FCT ministers 7 days to publish agreements, account for 5.9 trillion naira, $4.6 billion loans. Obi celebrates Easter with inmates, says we are all prisoners. You can read all that, those details on page 6 of the Daily Independent for you today.
Our next paper, I believe we're taking the Blueprint. We have taken the Blueprint newspaper. The Blueprint newspaper would be our next, and Dane gun accidental discharge kills 3 children, injures 4 in Taraba State. That's just above the nameplate of the Blueprint newspaper. Also, we have thousands of Israelis call on Netanyahu to resign over Gaza war. And in business on the Blueprint, TCN blames low gas supply for power sector challenges. You find that story on page 23 of the Blueprint. And Osimhen tops Serie A as highest paid player. The big story, Kuka at Easter. Our security agents can't defeat terrorists in months. Warns against diluting troops with hunters, vigilantes, believes Nigeria will be great again. We also have Nigeria targets 53.6 trillion naira export through technology transfer 2030. Finally, on the Blueprint, SERAP wants governors, FCT minister, to account for 5.9 trillion naira, $4.6 billion loan. Says fund vulnerable to mismanagement. Okay, the other stories, I beg your pardon. Ramadan. JNI task Muslims on spiritual efforts, generosity to poor. ACF celebrates Christians at Easter, prays for economic prosperity. And lastly, some sectors may witness drop in prices over Naira appreciation, says expert, and that story is on page 25 of the Blueprint.
Okay, so having taken a look at the blueprints, time now to turn to the Nigerian Tribune. All right, Nigerian Tribune brings us 3 headlines just above the nameplate this morning. Beginning from top left end of it, it says Ekiti indigenous or Ekiti indigens sue government over airport project, demand contract documents financial details. You can look that up when you pick up the Nigerian Tribune today on page 5. That's where you find details. We are reaping what we sowed yesterday. Nigerian leaders are like men in a drunken stupor. Kuka. Listed commercial banks may require combined 2.8 trillion naira to meet capital requirements, according to reports. Again, details can be found on page 7 of the Nigerian Tribune. An entire front page now dedicated to Ondo 2024 governorship, where Jimoh Ibrahim says, I am the most qualified. He brags about 9 university degrees, 2 national federal honors. OFR, CFR says he served as temporary president of the 148th General Assembly meeting of the International Parliamentary Union, IPU, Geneva 2024. Again, like I mentioned a while ago, that election is in November, and the people of Ondo State, by and large, will determine who governs them starting from that time.
Okay. That's that about the Nigerian Tribune. Our next paper now would be the Guardian newspaper. On the front page of the Guardian newspaper, we have all theft persist in Niger Delta despite militarization, private security. It's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Reported oil theft incidents in Q1 2024. We have a draft there of the reported oil theft incidents in the first quarter of 2021. Says 2,426 oil theft incidents were reported in Q1 2024 as oil production struggles to hit 1.78 million barrels per day target. And we also have a chart of the production value on the front page of the Guardian. Residents warn pro-Wike lawmakers over impeachment threat. Residents warn pro-Wike lawmakers over impeachment threats. That story is on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Sani, Wike, others get ultimatum to publish agreement account for 5.9 trillion naira, $4.6 billion loans. You find that on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Also, we have CSOs, right? CJN, laments poor state of judiciary. Imperative of managing fallout of the Okwama killings. It's an editorial on page 12 of the Guardian newspaper. Go to court, financial burden of prosecuting electoral matters in Nigerian courts. It's a news analysis on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have man kills friend over motorcycle dumps body in bush. Islamic cleric, 2 others arrested for possessing human parts in Ondo. Why Nigerians suffer unstable power supply by TCN. That's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. That'll be all for the Guardian newspaper. And
it takes us straight to the New Telegraph, where we have several other headlines as well. The New Telegraph. All right, we'll begin from the very top. Nigeria's external debt rose by 53.5% to $14.82 billion in 5 years. Servicing GOPS $10.91 billion. You can find details for yourself this morning when you pick up a copy of today's New Telegraph, right? Analysts, inflation may moderate to 23% by year end. Okay, what are the factors that would drive that? Well, you can read them up on page 22 of the New Telegraph. All right, LP crisis leaders fighting to preserve personal privileges. Utomi. Palliatives not solution to economic hardship. 3. Indigo steps up. Pages 2 and 9. Demand for more states. Obi, in prison, not end of life. Celebrate sister with inmates, says everybody in Nigeria in prison. Why states' pension law should be abolished. by lawyers. FG approves 25 billion naira to enhance healthcare delivery. Star Story, Easter Cooker demands robust templates for Nigeria's healing process. Several riders accompany that headline. False use of hunters, vigilantes to tackle terrorism. Be hopeful, prayerful to surmount current challenges. Can urges Nigerians emulate Christ's sacrificial spirit. Senate leader, pray for peace, economic prosperity, security. ACF tells Christians. Pope calls for ceasefire in Gaza, Ukraine in Easter message. Enugu APC ready to review Namani, Oyema, Chile, others suspension. Serap issues Sani Wike ultimatum to account for 5.9 trillion naira, 4.6 billion naira loans. Benue, headers destroyed 67 schools in separate attacks, fleeing victims alleged. Insecurity, we are pushing towards final onslaught. That's according to Chief of Staff. Mm-hmm. Second-hand vapor linked to cancer, and that's according to a new study, which you would find details of on page 27 of the Blueprint newspaper. News Direct is where we are leaving it this morning.
On News Direct, just underneath the nameplate, Rewani predicts decline in food prices by June, cites positive economic outlook. Also, Governor Fubara faces fresh impeachment plots from Rivers lawmakers. And we have Naira appreciates by 21.8% against US dollar in March 2024. And police intercept cleric with human parts in Ondo. You find that on page 15 of the News Direct. Also, Uba Sani's revelation sparks fresh concerns on debt profile, financial stability of state. The rider, as Serap gives Wike orders 7 days to publish loan agreements, accounts for 5.9 trillion naira, $4.6 billion loan. BDCs recounts 660 naira appreciation in naira since return to FX market, Loud Cardoso. NDLEA operatives refuse 5 million naira bribe, retrieve drug consignment. That's it. That's all of it of the News Direct. And of course, they're celebrating their 13th anniversary from 2010 to 2023.
That is great. Let's take our last paper on the show this morning. Turns out to be the Daily Trust newspaper. Just beneath the name masts, deaths, Kaduna APC suspends women leader for criticizing Governor Sani. Nigeria records 55.2 billion naira trade imbalance with UK. Easter, ACF urges prayers for security economy. And then the Star Story reads, Kebbi residents loot government private warehouses with 2 riders. There, palliatives not solution to hardship. Bayelsa Governor Kuka charges Tinubu on feed physical security. What's more, ceasefire talks resume as Israel kills 400 Palestinians in 2 weeks. That's quite a number. That's a little more than a community. 20 die of Lassa fever in Benue. So Lassa fever is still a threat, no doubt. Kano sacks 3 health workers, suspends 3 others over extortion. Police kill 2, recover firearms in IPOB ESN hideouts. And that's how we mark the end of newspaper review this morning on the program. We're taking a quick break. When we return, our guests will join us as we'll take a look at state of the economy with regards to FX and all of the other policies now driving the economic realities that Nigerians are seeing. All right, now time to have our third discussion this morning. Again, we're joined live via Zoom from Benin City, Edo State. Destiny Owobu, an economic analyst, to help us look at where we are today with regards to the FX segment of the economy, FDI, that's foreign direct investment, and overall growth of our economy as a country. Destiny, I hope you've made the most of your holidays so far. Hopefully you can hear us. All right, great. Good morning once again. Welcome to the program. So as always, my colleague Queen Agaba and I are the ones hosting you this morning. But let me get the ball rolling quickly. A couple of times between January, I should say, and this past month of March, we had opportunities to talk about the foreign exchange markets. Today, a lot has changed. We understand the Naira is firming up against the US dollar. Talk to us about the impact of that reality beyond all of the figures that we see, all of the numbers. How does it impact directly, one way or another, quality of life of the Nigerian?
Yes, like we said, Nigeria is a largely import-dependent country, and so because of that, anytime there is an appreciation of the foreign exchange, it has a direct spillover effect on the entire economy, because a lot of importers will be able to buy products at a cheaper rate, and students will be able to pay their school fees abroad at a cheaper rate. And generally, the manufacturing industry in Nigeria depends heavily on the exchange rates. And so when there is an appreciation of the exchange rate, it has serious implications for the economy, because Nigeria is a relatively very open economy. And what happens to the exchange value of the Naira is very significant in explaining our economic fortunes. So it's a welcome development if we are seeing the Naira gaining against the greenback, the dollar.
Interesting. But let's talk about the efforts that we have seen the CBN made in recent weeks. As a matter of fact, as part of those efforts, the Apex Bank had also established some sort of synergy, well, some people say collaboration, with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, that is the EFCC, to ensure that those who are essentially involved in racketeering, in round-tripping and speculation with regards to the foreign exchange are not only brought to book, but that their activities are halted as quickly as possible. Two questions. Were those efforts as a result of desperation? And in any case, have they paid off at all?
When there's a problem, the first thing one has to do is to try to understand the problem and then develop a strategy to counter the problem. And in that strategy, we have a long-term strategy, we have a medium-term strategy, and we have a short-term strategy. So I presently think that the CBN's current partnership with the EFCC is a short-term strategy, because we are trying to deal with the criminal elements of the foreign exchange variations. We must understand that there are fundamental issues that determines the foreign exchange value of the Naira. But if we're able to mop out the criminal elements, we'll be able to stabilize the currency in the interim, pending when we have more proactive, more strategic actions, which are important. So it's in line with the stopgap measure of the federal government to ensure that the heat that was pushing the Naira value down relative to the dollar in the last 6 months is tamed. And the combination of policies they handled, dealing with the Bureau de Change operators, dealing with the commercial banks, dealing with regulation issues, arresting people, licensing issues, and things like that, have been producing some fruit. So the federal government should be commended for taking these actions headlong. But that is not to say that those are we should go to rest. I think the fundamental issues that determine the foreign exchange value of our currency are not EFCC type of solutions. What we need are more strategic actions in the area of diversification, in the area of sustainable regulation, in the area of banking consolidation, in the area of reducing our appetite for imported goods. We need to find a way to develop a local industry for most of the things that we import. So we need a typical export-led economy or a domestic industrialization effort in the next 3 to 5 years to be able to show up the value of the naira relative to any currency in the world. Those are long-term measures. But in the short term, I think the federal government is in control of the situation and they are doing what is necessary. Let's talk about foreign direct investment now, just before my colleague Queen wades in now. We understand that we are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel in the manner of speaking. Some reports now saying that at least some excess of $1.5 billion had come into the country in a matter of days by way of foreign direct investments. Are we playing, or is this just a matter of saying you have to advance to dancing by first clapping? To analyze the FDI inflows into Nigeria by simply using a one-stop investment, we'll be doing disservice to the nature of foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment in the country in the last 5 years has gone down. In the last 5 years alone, Nigeria lost over $500 million worth of foreign direct investment into this country. And what that means is that Nigeria is not seen as an investment destination by most of these investors. But this quick turnaround is a good thing. It's like if you draw a trend analysis of our investment, of the investment into this country in the last 5 years, and then you get to this point on that diagram, you're going to see that there's a sharp upward movement from the downward trend. So it's a welcome development, given the fact that most economic analysts predicted that Nigeria is going to suffer a lot of woes, and then these figures are coming in. We are going to be looking at all the figures. Apart from just the exchange rate, we also noticed that the Osher index also improved appreciably in the exchange market. We also noticed that this foreign direct investment is also increasing. But what we need to do is to not celebrate yet, because we are looking at trends. So it has to be sustained. So apart from the $30 billion investment that we are getting, we need to be checking what's going to happen between now and the rest of the year and the next 2 years for us to be able to assess whether the policies are going right or not. But in the moment, it is a plus to the Nigerian economy for us to be attracted $30 billion. We expect that we attract more in the coming months. And then maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, we're able to tell the direction of the flow. Is it just a random stochastic event, or is it a trend that we are looking at? If it's a stochastic event, that means it just happened randomly, then there's not to celebrate. But if it is sustained within the next 6 months to 1 year, and then we begin to look at the upward trend, we may be seeing good things coming. So it is too early to begin to make a final judgment on the nature of that investment and how it affects the economy.
Okay, sir. The central bank has, embarked on a recapitalization reform, for mega banks. I want to know how this can impact the strength and stability of the banking sector and Nigeria as a whole. And then some critics have argued, about the transparency of this process. What do you think? What do you make of, all of this?
Yes, we recall that in 2014, there was a recapitalization earlier when the banks had 2 billion capital base, and then we recapitalized to about 25 billion capital base. We saw how this recapitalization affected employment in the banking sector. Hundreds of thousands of people were employed, and then the banks became more formidable. We remember that before then there were 89 banks in this country, and there were a lot of failed banks. But since 2014, under that consolidation, we have not had more than 5 failed banks. It shows that consolidation boosts confidence in the system. So this more capitalization that we are seeing now is in line with the federal government's policy to raise our economy from about $480 billion GDP to about $1 trillion in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, if you want to grow an economy to about $1 trillion in about 5 years, your banking system needs to be robust, should be able to capture and finance this system. And so our current banking structure is not enough, is too small to lift that weight of pushing Nigeria from a $480 billion economy to about $1 trillion economy. And that is the logic of the recapitalization. What it does is that it increases the size of the Nigerian economy and the financial system. It also boosts confidence to depositors that their funds are safe with the banks. It also makes the banks to be able to expand their investments around the country, which will eventually boost the GDP of the country. So it is a plus for the economy when the banks recapitalize, because most of them will not be able to achieve that on their own. They will need to do a lot of collaboration and partnerships with other banks. And that requires a lot of business consolidation and a lot of mergers and acquisitions and partnerships along the line. So these are good for business, especially when Nigeria plans to grow the economy to that size in the next 5 to 7 years. So it's a plus for the economy. Yes.
Okay, so now I mentioned that, some people have criticized, this, saying that we know that it's a plus for Nigeria's economy, but how transparent is the process going to be? What is the central bank doing to monitor and evaluate the process? How do you think the central bank can go about this to achieve this recapitalization fairly?
I strongly believe in the interest of the country, the inflation rate at the moment. You can see what the central bank has been doing, trying to use circulars to control what the commercial banks are doing. The central bank is particularly interested in trying to reduce inflation rate and trying to improve our exchange rate. Those regulations require them to act according to good faith practices. So we do not believe the federal government has an interest to shortchange the process by not being transparent enough, because it will go counter policy to what they're already doing with the banking system, trying to ensure the exchange rate is stable. They're already working hand and nail to make sure that the banking system operates according to civilized rules. We can see that they are partnering with the EFCC and other bodies to ensure that the banks operate on standard rules of operation. So the central bank itself cannot be in that same process circumventing the process itself by not being transparent. So there's a reason, there's a logic behind the actions of what they're doing, and there's a reason to ensure that everything is transparent and others. So I like the fact that the critics are raising these issues. These issues should be put on the front burner to ensure that the process is transparent, is done according to corporate governance rules that will ensure that society benefits from it. So while the arguments are coming, the complaints are coming, they are not out of the way, because we have seen the central bank before now, under the Emefiele administration, there were so many problems which have come out of the investigations of that, especially the Naira redesign process. The central bank is not supposed to operate by according to those rules, because there was a lot of accountability issues, transparency issues with respect to that particular transaction or that event. So, and this central bank is investigating those actions themselves. So it is not in their best interest to renege on the promise and then begin to play by backhand rules. So I think the federal government appears to be serious about sanitizing the banking system, because the Nigerian economy is taking a nosedive. At the nosedive point, we cannot afford to make more mistakes. Yeah.
All right, great. So let's just put in the last question now before we call it quits here. So first, I just want to ask, just as soon as the CBN announced this new recapitalization regime, as I like to call it, some experts had also come out to say, look, we have to be careful for these banks not to go source funding, all right, in a bid, maybe in a desperate bid to recapitalize, from proceeds of crime, from monies in the hands of some persons who are politically exposed and so on and so forth. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, I mean, just a while ago, while you were responding to Queen's question, you did talk about the corporate governance elements in this conversation, right? Over time, Nigerian banks are, time and again, they've been accused of weak, faulty, in some cases broken corporate governance structure. And we do believe, we know for a fact that the CBN has a pivotal role to play in all of this. Help us make sense of both questions.
Yeah, on the first level question, you wanted to know whether the banks will source for funds using underhand tactics or trying to expose themselves to politicians. That threat is very real given the nature of our economy. Nigeria is majorly a rent economy where there's a lot of economics is mixed with politics. The political side often directs the economic side in Nigeria. Sadly, Nigeria is not yet a totally capitally intensive, capitalist society as designed in the book. So there's usually that threat. These politicians will find a way into the banking system and then put their funds there. There is that threat. So that is why the federal government has to, if they are serious about the policy, they have to be able to strengthen the corporate governance rules and ensure that the commercial banks operate according to those rules in getting funding, in getting their management board, in getting their operational rules in order, because there's a threat, there's a real persistent threat that the banks, in a bid to meet those standards, will play dirty. So that's where we need a partnership with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, the EFCC, the ICPC, and the Banking and Other Financial Institutions Act. These things, there has to be high-level collaboration at that level to ensure that everything goes in. There's a national interest to be protected above all the personal interest of all these bankers. So we need to harmonize these policies, ensure that everybody operates according to best practices. But like I said, from the history of Nigerian administration, we've always seen where the political overshines the logical and economic imperatives. So we can't speak for the federal government. We'll have to wait and see how the federal government is able to manage this existential threat, and which is very realistic given the antecedents of previous administrations. Well, let's see how it goes. It is good that we're having such discussions on television so that the stakeholders will be aware of the persistent threat. Now, on the second question, I can't remember how you framed it.
Yeah, we're talking about the corporate governance issue.
The corporate governance issues, yes. Just related to the first question, the corporate governance issues in Nigeria, there have been efforts to streamline the corporate governance rules to ensure that bankers play according to best practices. And so far, so good. There have not been any major breach of the corporate governance code of Nigerian banks in the last 10 years, save for the few banks that were taken over by Emefiele and some people in shadow transactions. Okay, we've not had a serious breach of corporate governance rules. It is a testament to the fact that these rules have been respected by a majority of the banks in Nigeria. So there's no reason to fear that there will be a serious breach, given that the federal government has something to prove, given the situation that Nigeria finds itself at the moment. So I think the federal government should mostly guard these corporate governance rules and ensure that all the players play according to those rules. I am saying this because everybody, when a man is pushed to the wall, the only way is to fight back. Nigeria has, in the last couple of years, been reduced to the very, very bottom on every axis in terms of foreign exchange, in terms of inflation, in terms of unemployment, in terms of economic growth. We are near the bottom. And I think at this point, rationality must supersede over political or sectional imperatives. So I strongly believe the federal government should be looking at these numbers And the small progress we have noticed in the last 1 month suggests that they appear to be serious about turning the country around. So that will be good for corporate governance as well.
Destiny Awobu, thank you for taking our time to join us on the program this morning. We hope you enjoy the rest of the holiday.
Thank you very much for having me.
Destiny Awobu, economic analyst, joined us live via Zoom from Benin City this morning. Of course, fingers crossed. We hope Nigeria's economy continues to strengthen up. The Naira continues to firm up in particular. But there's this sad incident that happened in Taraba State on Saturday, but actually made news for the most part of yesterday. About 3 children whose lives were lost to a gun accident and about 4 others who got injured in the accident. Quite a sad story. Incidentally, such discussions don't make it big time on discussion programs such as these, particularly on television, weekdays in particular, and it just doesn't take away from the fact that it's a sad story for that community, for the parents of the children, you know, for Nigeria as a whole, because this means some -3 for us as a country. Who knows what these children would have turned out to be in the next, say, 20, 30 years or something. All right, but then what can we do? We just have to continue to be vigilant. I mean, everybody has to play their role, do their beats. If that gun had been kept properly, who knows? Maybe we won't be discussing this particular development on the program this morning. But then, just a sad reminder that not everything has to stop in front of the government. We must have to take individual and collective responsibility, yes, for the kind of life we live and the kind of country and society we want to see. Incidentally, that's it for our program this morning, everyone. Queen Agaba and I have been your host on Global Morning. Tomorrow, we're back here again by the grace of God, and we'll say thank you for spending a part of your time with us. Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASIS strike.
You have done your work and put us to the wall. We are not your slaves. I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report. I have not seen the report.